I don't sleep with poor men. Got it. Her voice sliced through the luxury ballroom like a blade, sharp and unapologetic, slapping me across the face harder than any hand ever could. She was still holding a champagne flute, her eyes narrowing at me like I had just embarrassed her in front of the world. Heads turned, the music cut out, the spotlight still gleamed against her crimson slit dress that rode up almost to her hip except now. Nobody was marveling at her beauty. They were stunned by what she just said. Those words came from the woman I'd been married to for 3 years. My name is Jake Miller. I'm 34 years old and I work in logistics for a distribution company in Austin, Texas. I make $1,000 a year, not a bad income, but to her, I'm nothing but a low-income loser. Tonight was supposed to be a surprise birthday party for my wife, Samantha. The same woman I once proposed to on one knee in the middle of 6th Street with a tiny sapphire ring because it was all I could afford. But instead of gratitude, I got publicly humiliated. Brutally, permanently. She said that in front of her friends, co-workers, even her boss, a short, pudgy man with a Rolex and a smirk. I just stood there, like a damn joke. The question echoed in my mind over and over. Did she really just say that is this the same woman I married? What made her look at me like I was beneath her? Samantha let out a scoff, turned away, and looped arms with her best friend Macy, the one with the influencer cleavage and an Instagram wardrobe to match. As she glanced back at me one last time, I knew she wanted that image burned into my brain. I swallowed hard and backed out of the crowd. No one met my eyes. A few fiddled with their phones. Others whispered. What were they thinking? Did they know I once worked 3 jobs just to support Samantha through her MBA? I slipped onto the balcony. The cold air bit at my face, but at least it was real, unlike everything back in that room. From where I stood, I could see the southern highway cutting through Austin. Cars sped past like life itself wasn't waiting for anyone, just like Samantha didn't wait to step over me. I pulled out the small gift box from my coat pocket, still unopened. Inside was a white gold necklace engraved with both our names. I had planned to give it to her after the cake, but now I clenched the box in my hand, and as I stared at it, memories slammed into me like freight trains. The night she cried when I introduced her to my parents. The nights she hugged me from behind when I came home from graveyard shifts. The time she whispered, as long as you love me, money doesn't matter. Was that all a lie? 2. My phone buzzed. A notification lit up the screen. Direct deposit, $6.13. Not a fortune, but not nothing. So why? Why did she treat me like trash? The answer came sooner than I expected. I stepped back into the ballroom just in time to see Samantha pressed up against another man. Tall, expensive suit, tan skin, slicked back hair. He looked like the type of guy who manages crypto funds and takes meetings in Napa. They were whispering. Then he leaned down, said something in her ear. Samantha laughed, soft and flirtatious, one hand resting on his chest, the other intertwining her fingers with his. She had no idea I was behind her. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. I wanted to move, say something, anything, but I froze. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out every thought. So this was it. She'd found someone richer, flashier, more worthy of being seen with. I turned and walked away, feeling like an empty beer can crushed under a heel. But something inside me snapped. For the first time in my life, the pain didn't sting. I felt angry. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't going to end with silence. I wasn't going to disappear like some pitiful fool. No, I was going to give her exactly what she deserved. Not with screaming, not with drama, but with something she would never see coming. I was going to vanish from her life along with everything she thought she had in the palm of her hand. But before I could pull that off, I needed to know just one thing. How long had she been planning to betray me? And what else was she hiding? I sat alone in my home office. The cream-colored chair I once picked out for this apartment now felt strangely foreign. In my hand was the gift box, still sealed, still waiting to be given. There was no romantic birthday toast, no teary smile of surprise, just humiliation, laughter at my expense, and the image of Samantha, my wife, wrapping her hand around some tall stranger in a suit stitched from dollar bills. I didn't go home right after the party. I drove around Austin for hours, down every street that once meant something, where we used to grab takeout, see movies, sign the lease for this very apartment. Now, each place was a knife twisting in my memory. When I finally got back, it was past 2 a.m. The apartment was still. Samantha was asleep or pretending to be. I didn't speak. I didn't wake her. I just went to my office, turned on the light, pulled out an old notebook, and started writing. Did she ever really love me? That question bounced around in my skull like an echo in an empty hall. I started listing all the little things I'd brushed off before. The first time I took her to my hometown, she barely touched the beef stew my mom made. Looks a little rural, she had said, nose wrinkled. When I got laid off from my last job, she didn't speak to me for 2 days. Instead, she maxed out my credit card ordering a designer purse, saying, "Retail therapy helps me distress." Once, during dinner with her friends, she introduced me as, "My husband, he's in logistics, basically drives trucks for a warehouse." I was a transport coordinator, not a truck driver. At the time, I thought she was just being careless. But now the next morning, I walked into the kitchen. Samantha was already sipping her cappuccino, served in a tall glass mug with a gold print that read, "Boss Babe." I asked calmly, "Did you have fun last night?" She looked at me, a quick glance, sharp as a razor. "If you mean the party, meh. But maybe next time you could actually dress like someone who belongs in those places." I didn't respond. I sat down and watched her scroll through Instagram, tilting her head for selfies, smiling like her life was picture perfect. A minute later, her phone pinged. She paused, picked it up, read the message. Her eyes blinked just once, a flicker of surprise, maybe even panic, but she wiped it away fast. "I have to head to the office. Emergency meeting." "It's Saturday," I said. She didn't even look up. "My job isn't like yours. Jake." She sprayed perfume on her neck, grabbed her coat, and left. As the door shut behind her, I walked to the balcony. From the 8th floor, I watched her climb into a sleek black BMW. Not hers. The man behind the wheel was the same guy from last night. Wow. That fast. Huh. Samantha. Not even trying to hide it anymore, I took out my phone, snapped a picture of the license plate. My hand was shaking, but my mind crystal clear. That night, I powered up my laptop and logged into one of Samantha's old email accounts. She thought it was deleted. She was wrong, and she never changed the password. I skimmed through archived messages until I found a folder labeled Biz, Private. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Emails with marketing partners I'd never heard of, a personal branding budget totaling over $47,000 charged to a supplementary credit card I gave her last year, a contract titled Personal Media Development Agreement signed by the CEO of the same company, the guy with the BMW. I opened our in-home security footage. Samantha had insisted we install the system for safety, but I controlled the account. I rewound footage from nights I'd been out of town. One clip showed her walking into the living room, in a sheer silk nightgown, laughing softly with a man. His face was off camera, but his build unmistakable. That BMW had parked outside our building more than once, so this wasn't new. They'd been doing this. Here, in the apartment I was still paying for. I shut the laptop, and for the first time in 3 years of marriage, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt used. What hurt the most wasn't that she cheated. It was that I had handed her every tool she needed to crush me. The money, the home, the trust. I sat there in the dark, gripping a glass of cold water, and I whispered more to myself than anyone else. "All right, Samantha, you want to play power games? Congratulations, because I just made my first move. From the day I uncovered those first pieces of evidence, I changed everything about how I acted. No confrontations, No accusations. No hint of suspicion. I went back to playing the exact role Samantha had always wanted from me. The docile, clueless husband. The man who didn't ask questions. But inside I remembered everything. Every receipt, every shady message, every late night followed by a half-baked excuse. I started tracking her. Not in some creepy, stalker in the shadows way, but with the precision of a man who finally realized he was living with a professional liar. I slipped an AirTag into Samantha's designer Chanel bag, the one she claimed was a brand collaboration gift, but was actually a token from her side piece. 3 weeks later, I had a detailed map of her movements. 3 visits to W Downtown Hotel, 2 late-night trips to the Media Lab group office, and at least 6 stops at a penthouse in the Domain District, the same place her business partner's CEO lives. Was she going there for sex money? Both. I briefly considered hiring a private investigator, but then I realized I didn't need one. Samantha left trails everywhere. I'd just been blind to them. I logged into our main joint bank account and cross-referenced it with the secondary credit card she used. Over $20,000 spent in the last 3 months on services that no legitimate job required. Lash and Beyond, $4 to $500. Cloud9 private events, $200. Avenue Suites, 2 nights, $700. And a $6,000 wire transfer to an account under the name Marcus Varela. That name hit me like a jolt to the spine. The CEO, the affair, and now, without question, the accomplice. I looked him up on LinkedIn. He ran a PR agency with a polished surface, but underneath shady revenue numbers, questionable clients, and a feed full of luxury feminist empowerment content, the exact brand Samantha was trying to build for herself. She needed me. I was the anchor, the reliable husband with a steady income, whose name was on the lease and the credit cards. But he was her ticket to the fantasy life, one where she didn't have to explain her working class roots. And me, I was just a pawn. But not anymore. I decided right then I wouldn't slip away quietly. I opened a private bank account at a San Antonio branch, registered under a shell company, EM Freight Solutions, LLC. Sounded like just another small logistics subcontractor, but it would be the vault where I moved everything she thought she controlled. Next, I started liquidating shares in a small investment firm I'd quietly joined 2 years ago, back when I still believed in building a future with her. That portfolio had now become my lifeline. I transferred nearly 70% of my liquid savings, roughly $180,000 into the new account. Each transfer was carefully disguised as specialized freight equipment investments, spread out over 10 days. She didn't suspect a thing, but I wasn't done. I started collecting evidence, not to hurt Samantha, but to completely dismantle the image she'd built like a paper castle. I downloaded audio clips from hidden cameras I had discreetly installed in the kitchen and office places she always took her calls. One recording stood out. Samantha, speaking to Macy, "As long as Jake's name is still on the lease, I can't walk away clean. But Marcus already finished the fake contract. We'll frame him for financial abuse and file for divorce. I'll take everything." My hands trembled. So it wasn't just cheating. She wanted to destroy me. Still not enough. I searched her laptop, no password. She was too confident, too careless. In a folder named Pitch Ideas, I found a draft email requesting sponsorship for a personal branding campaign. The first line: "As a woman who rebuilt herself after leaving a toxic marriage with a manipulative and controlling husband." I laughed, bitterly. She hadn't even left me yet, but the script was ready, me cast as the villain, the monster, the abuser. She didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to step on me to climb higher, to become the survivor heroine in her fabricated rise. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed my eyes and started planning. She wanted to make me the bad guy. Fine, but I'd show her what the real bad guy looks like. And when I opened my eyes again, I knew exactly what came next. Step 1. Play the part of the weak, oblivious husband to perfection. Make her think I was harmless. Make her feel secure. And step 2. Walk into that courtroom, the one she was already scheming toward, and arrive with everything. Ever since I decided to play by Samantha's rules, I started living a double life. By day, I was the same easygoing husband punctual at work, asking what she wanted for dinner, even brewing her tea while she watched Netflix. But by night, I was someone else, focused, calculating, peeling away the mask of the woman I once thought I loved. I leaned into the role with frightening precision, so much so, Samantha actually believed I was getting softer. One night, she even said, "I know I've been distant lately. Don't take it personally. Okay, maybe we should try. Some time apart." I looked at her and nodded. "If you need space, I respect that. I'll sleep on the couch." She smiled, pleased, thought I was crumbling. That same night, I slipped a recording device into her handbag. Each day after that was a silent battlefield. I collected audio, trimmed clips, stored them on 3 separate hard drives, one in a safety deposit box, one at my best friend Kyle's house, and one hidden inside the equipment room at my company. Kyle was the only person who knew what I was doing. He'd been through a divorce after catching his wife sleeping with her boss. He understood the golden rule of payback: silence is your strongest weapon. He helped me trace financial ties from Marcus Varela, the Lover's CEO, to Samantha. We uncovered 2 anonymous wire transfers into a new company she launched, Beyond Her Inc., marketed as a startup empowering women toward independence, in reality, a front for laundering money. Then, just like I predicted, Samantha made her first move. One afternoon in mid-March, I received a thick envelope at work. Inside, a petition for unilateral divorce. The accusations: financial abuse, controlling spending, hiding marital assets, suspected infidelity with a female coworker. Seriously, I read every line without flinching. There was only one thing that made me laugh, actually laugh out loud. She was demanding 85% of the assets, the condo, both cars, and every cent of our savings. She thought I'd panic, that I'd beg. That night, I came home like nothing happened. Samantha was sitting on the bed, bathed in soft yellow light, wearing one of her silky nightgowns, hair down, skin glowing. She looked beautiful if I didn't know she was trying to gut me alive. "You're home," she said, eyes still on her laptop. "Yeah. Oh, by the way," I pulled an envelope from my bag and placed it gently on the dresser. "Got something for you, too." She glanced at it, puzzled. It was a transfer request signing over 50% of an investment company's shares to EM Freight Solutions, my shell company. I smiled. "Just some small paperwork. In case, things don't work out." She stiffened for half a second. Then she flashed me that syrupy grin. "You're so thoughtful. I'm lucky to have you." I leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Yeah, lucky." 3 weeks later, we were in court. Samantha walked in like she was accepting an Emmy. White fitted dress hugging every curve. 8-inch heels, chin lifted like she owned the air around her. Beside her was a sharp-faced attorney with the expression of a man halfway through a tax audit. And me, charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie, calm expression. My attorney, one of Kyle's old firm partners, specialist in complex financial divorce battles. It began with Samantha's attorney reading out their allegations. The respondent has a documented history of controlling marital finances, hiding assets, and engaging in suspected extramarital activity. I sat silently until my lawyer stood up, inserted a small USB into the courtroom laptop, and pressed play. Samantha's voice filled the courtroom. "I don't love him. I just needed his name to secure the startup loan. Marcus already forged the contract. Once the divorce is through, I'm cleaning him out. Let him rot in a trailer for all I care." Gasps echoed. Then another clip: that 5 kilos I took from his visa last week for Vegas. "You think I told him, please, as long as he thinks I still love him, I can drain him dry?" Silence. Only the sound of the judge's pen tapping the bench. Once. Twice. Then she spoke. "Mrs. Miller, are you aware this constitutes marital fraud and criminal conspiracy?" I turned to look at Samantha. Her mouth opened, searching for a defense, but no sound came out. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. That look on her face, that frozen, crumbling expression of someone exposed before the entire legal system. That was the breath of relief I'd been holding for months, and that was just the beginning. After that courtroom showdown, Samantha fell apart literally and publicly. The next morning, headlines exploded across local media. Founder of Beyond Her Inc., accused of marital fraud and misusing husband's finances to fund startup. There she was, plastered all over news feeds. No makeup, blank stare, slouched in her seat like the air had been knocked out of her. Articles poured in, dissecting the hypocrisy behind performative feminism and so-called empowerment brands built on lies. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. Just empty. The enemy I'd spent months unraveling had finally impaled herself on the very blade she'd sharpened for me. But pain doesn't vanish with a courtroom verdict. It simply morphs into something deeper, something quieter. But the game wasn't over. 2 weeks later, Samantha struck back. She filed an appeal in Travis County Court, claiming I had fabricated evidence. She petitioned to freeze the assets under EM Freight Solutions LLC, demanding they be seized for forensic investigation. And then she pulled a move that was pure venom. She hired a PR firm to rewrite the narrative. Suddenly, she was a victim, the wronged wife of a tech-savvy manipulator who used deep fakes to destroy her life. She cried on camera, posted a TikTok sob story with captions like, "I never thought the man I loved would betray me like this." Modern women shouldn't be punished for speaking their truth. The video went viral, 2 million views in 24 hours. And the worst part, some people believed her. Could she really spin the public back in her favor? Could lies become truth again? With enough mascara and lighting filters, I knew I had to act fast. I called in a favor from Kyle, who connected me with Noah, a digital forensic analyst. Noah examined the audio files we had played in court. He extracted metadata confirming timestamps, recording devices, and digital integrity. Everything was authenticated, notarized, and sent directly to my lawyer. Then I hit back with something Samantha never saw coming: a countersuit, defamation, malicious intent, reputational damage. No settlement, no backroom deal. I wanted her to answer for what she did in the same public arena where she thought she'd reign. Samantha panicked, but she didn't drop the act. She doubled down. Meanwhile, I launched phase 2, targeting what mattered most to her, her brand. I hired an independent audit firm to dig into Beyond Her Inc.'s finances. 3 weeks later, the results came in. 72% of expenditures had no supporting documentation, $12,000 spent on spas, luxury clothing, and private parties. Suspicious wire transfers between her personal account and Marcus Varela's labeled media consulting, cash refund after show. I compiled the entire report and sent it to Nick, a journalist I once delivered packages to back when I worked delivery routes. He was now an editor at an investigative news site specializing in corporate scandals. By Monday morning, the article was live: feminist startup CEO exposed in financial scandal, the truth behind the empowered woman persona. It was devastating, detailed, backed by bank statements, email screenshots, and audio excerpts. It spread like wildfire. Within 48 hours, Samantha lost nearly 20,000 followers. Her only brand sponsor, a cosmetics company in Miami, publicly cut ties. "We are suspending collaboration indefinitely due to ethical misconduct." Podcasts that had once praised her as a female visionary pulled episodes. Entire clips vanished from Spotify and Apple. This time, her fall was public, unspinnable, undeniable. And I still wasn't done. I made one final transfer to my company account in San Antonio, $34,000 from the last batch of liquidated shares. Then, I signed a deal with a real estate agency. The condo, the one we once called home, was going up for sale. 3 days later, Samantha received official notice: property registered under Jake Miller will be transferred to new ownership within 21 days. All co-residents are required to vacate the premises. She called me. For the first time in nearly 2 months, her voice was hoarse, tired. Jake, what are you doing? Are you really trying to destroy me? I paused. No. You jumped. Then I hung up. That night, for the first time since the night she humiliated me in front of everyone, I slept. No nightmares, no anger, just silence, and one single, clear thought. Real victory isn't about hurting someone back. It's about making sure they never get the chance to hurt you again. A month after the condo sold, I officially moved into a modest loft on the east side of Austin. Minimalist, quiet. No more heels clacking on hardwood. No more perfume lingering in the bathroom air. I started over. Each morning, I brewed coffee and opened the window to let the sunlight hit the corner of the kitchen. Lunch was solitary. No one mocked my homemade sandwiches as poor man food. And in the silence, I learned to enjoy my own company. It felt like breathing again after years of being smothered in a fabricated marriage. I kept my day job, but nights were reserved for something else. Building my dream from scratch, an e-commerce freight logistics platform. I called it Freight Loop. What started as scribbled notes slowly became wireframes, then prototypes. I reached out to old contacts, some of whom once looked down on me for being just Samantha's forgettable husband. Not anymore. I got emails from companies in Dallas, Houston, and Oklahoma City. They were all interested. One even offered to fund the first investment round. Things were aligning, and just when I thought I'd finally put the past behind me, Samantha came back. No short dresses, no red lipstick. Gone was the boss, Lady Aura. She stood outside the company parking lot in a faded hoodie, hair in a messy tie, eyes dark from sleepless nights, lips cracked like she'd cried through cheap wine. I almost walked past her, but then she called out, Jake, please, just 5 minutes. I stopped, not out of sympathy, but curiosity. What could she possibly have left to say? We sat at a nearby cafe. She clutched her cappuccino like it was the only thing holding her together. I know. I ruined everything. Marcus is under investigation. Beyond Her is shut down. The media turned on me. I have no one left. I stayed silent. Her shoulders trembled as she lowered her head. If you don't hate me anymore, just give me a chance to say I'm sorry. I don't even recognize who I became. I looked at her for a long time. No more anger. No more love. Just clarity. It's not that you don't recognize who you became, Samantha. It's that you chose to become her. She flinched. And I've made a choice, too, to save myself and never look back. I walked out, left behind a woman who once rose by stepping on trust and now sat in the ruins of her own ambition. 3 months later, I closed my first seed round $1 million from a Denver investment firm. Freight Loop was valued at $5.5 million. I hired 12 employees. Most of them people overlooked by other startups for being not stylish enough. We built things with real skill. No hype, no empty slogans. One afternoon, I got a message from Nick, the journalist who exposed Samantha. Bro, she wants the article pulled. Offered to pay. I replied, no. Leave it. Not for revenge, but because the truth shouldn't stay buried. He sent back a thumbs up. That same evening, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text, a real letter. Soft handwriting, lavender-scented paper. It was from Samantha's mother. Jake, I don't expect you to forgive her. But as a mother, I need to say this. You were the kindest man Samantha ever had. Losing you was her own doing. I hope you live well. And if one day you meet someone who truly cherishes you, please let me meet her. Just once. Mary, I folded the letter, exhaled. No tears, no ache, just peace. And the quiet realization that this entire journey, what started as betrayal, was actually the beginning of becoming me. Samantha lost everything. I found myself, and there's no victory more complete than that. That afternoon, I stood in front of the mirror in my new office, straightening my collar before heading into a meeting with the next round of investors. The room was bright, walls made of glass overlooking the I-35 freeway where traffic never stopped. Just like me. After everything, I was still moving forward. My life was unrecognizable now. I was no longer the broke logistics guy in Samantha's eyes. I was Jake Miller, CEO of Freight Loop, the man who just signed expansion deals into 2 neighboring states, with projected revenue entering 7 figures next year. But what made me smile each morning wasn't the money, or the shares, or the fact that media outlets had started calling me the man who turned betrayal into a comeback story. It was the quiet, the stillness in my chest. No more wondering if I was good enough for someone. No more chasing approval through paychecks or performance. I no longer lived to be accepted. I lived to be me. But fate has a strange sense of timing. One crisp evening in early fall, just after a signing ceremony downtown, I saw her again. Samantha. Not at some distant corner of the world, but ironically inside the very event I just headlined. She was working the floor. A catering staff member in a plain black uniform, hair tied back, name tag that read Sam. She passed me holding a tray of wine glasses, and for a fraction of a second, our eyes met. That blink, that tiny flicker of recognition. It shook. I couldn't tell if she knew it was me or was pretending not to. But I knew one thing for sure. This was the price, the cost of arrogance, the debt of every step she took on someone else's back. As I stepped outside, my phone buzzed. It was my lawyer. Jake, the court has accepted your lawsuit against Samantha for defamation and misappropriation of assets. They've set a hearing date for the end of the month. I replied simply, we're not dropping it. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I needed the money, but because truth deserves consequences. You don't get to torch someone's life and walk away with a tear and a latte apology. People who climb by stepping on others need to learn eventually the ground fights back. 3 weeks later, we walked into court. It was a private hearing. Samantha looked hollowed out, gaunt face, eyes tired. Her lawyer was a kid fresh out of law school, nervous in the way only people who know they're outmatched can be. I brought my attorney, and a folder thick with every damning piece of evidence, financial irregularities, falsified transfers, defamatory statements, no yelling, no drama. My silence said more than a speech ever could. The judge reviewed everything, then delivered the verdict. The defendant is ordered to pay legal fees and damages for reputational harm. Associated assets will be frozen pending enforcement. Samantha broke down crying. I stood up, straightened my jacket, gave a respectful nod to the court, and walked away. The last time I ever saw Samantha was through my rearview mirror sitting on the courthouse steps, knees pulled in, sobbing into her arms. I didn't feel joy. I just felt peace. By the end of that year, Freight Loop was named one of Business Frontier's top 10 breakout startups of 2025. I was invited to speak at a conference titled Men Who Rebuilt, where I shared my story, not as a revenge saga, but as a lesson in self-worth. During the Q&A, someone asked, "Do you think you won because you were smarter than her?" I shook my head. I won because I stopped needing anyone to validate my worth. I ended my talk with one sentence. Sometimes, you have to lose everything to find the very best parts of who you are. And under that soft, golden stage light, I saw people nod. Not because they pitied me, but because they understood. We've all been Jake Miller, and we all deserve the chance to rise.